Well, welcome to our listeners. This is our second ever recorded episode of Stay Classy San Diego. This is a podcast sponsored by MaxLux Media, with your host being myself, Steve Wire, freelance reporter affiliated with the Coast News and the North Coast Current, among other organizations. We're also being sponsored by Barn Time, and you can find their website at barntimemusic.com. I'd like to introduce our two candidates for Mayor of Encinitas today that we're taking on, and we have Michael Blobe. And he's lived in Encinitas for close to a decade. Is that right?
Correct.
And you have quite the background. You're a singer, a songwriter. You're the interim vice president and treasurer of the board for Barefoot is Legal, which is a federally registered national civil rights organization. And you've had extensive management experience in retail and hospitality.
Correct.
So thanks for coming on, Michael. Appreciate you. And then we have Jeff Morris over here. Jeff, who's also running for mayor, is a native Southern Californian. He's spent most of his life in Encinitas. He's been married for 25 years to his wife, Kim. They have 3 wonderful children. Jeff graduated from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo with a degree in agricultural business marketing. He landed his first job in La Jolla as a stockbroker, and he's also been a cosmetic marketing and custom furniture business owner. When Jeff was 27, he bought his first home in Encinitas and retired into his 40s to spend more time with his kids. So thank you so much, Jeff, for coming on. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Now, to start off with some of the pertinent issues, I'll start off where I started last time with Tony and Cindy, which is this question of crime in Encinitas. So, as you all know, earlier last week, there was an incident at Ironsmith Coffee. The owner, unfortunately, had an altercation with a homeless individual and was shot. And I've given you a lot of questions, a lot of feedback about this topic from people who read the Coast News, and people want to know, what are the mayoral candidates going to do about crime? So I want to talk about like what your perception is of Encinitas' crime level, like what your perception is in terms of, is crime rising, is crime falling? But I also want to talk about what you think the public perception is and how you intend to address this as mayor. So we'll start with you, Jeff, and take it away.
Well, I remember that day. That was just like 4 or 5 days ago, and I heard a call, and I rushed down there to see what's going on, just because I care.
Yeah.
And you hear something of that magnitude, it's pretty scary. And I didn't quite get the exact information. I heard he was shot in the face, and then found out that he was grazed in the neck. But this kind of stuff has been happening nonstop. 3 years ago, I started a group called Encinitas Watchdog. The purpose of that was to monitor what's going on in the town. I had a bad feeling about, I spent some time on the streets as a kid, so I had a little bit of some concerns about bringing homeless in. So I just wanted to make sure that everything was kind of up and up. So I started monitoring all the crime that was going on in town. I did it for 2.5 years. I would listen to the sheriff's scanner. I would pull up at crime scenes all over town and like SWAT standoffs and just these things that you would never expect. Dead bodies in hotels, needles everywhere, homeless all over the grounds. The cops are spending every day dealing with this issue. And I am just, it needs to be resolved. The day after that day, I got another call at the community park, Encinitas Community Park. I pull up, someone had died, and he had been taken from that spot pretty quickly. And I'm like, okay, wait, these guys are getting faster. When you put up caution tape, it's usually a bad, it's a bad thing. And then somebody else got stabbed at 7-Eleven not long ago. And this is just what we know. To be honest, I don't really trust the sources or what's being told to us, especially after the sheriff's scanner was taken off. So the crime is really bad, and it's something that I have a big passion to fix, because I don't like my community being in danger.
Sure.
And so, it's kind of as a starting point, I'm very pro public safety. I'm about law and order. I don't like people being dishonest, and if I'm elected, I'm going to work with the sheriffs to make sure that our town is completely safe and protected like it was 3 years ago.
Sure.
And I can't deal with, this community doesn't deserve this. We didn't do anything to turn into this sanctuary, crime-riddled city. I'm for taking care of our part, but I'm not for the way things are going right now. So I plan on working on that and making it safe again for everybody.
Thank you, Jeff. I do want to interject with some numbers. So Encinitas' crime rate, according to the latest Sandag numbers, rose from 2020 to 21 by 31%. However, there's a more recent Sandag report that shows that actually crime respectively decreased by 5% since last year. Now, those are numbers only as of 6 months through the year, so that's half the year. However, compared to 2018, the city's overall crime rate has risen by 6%. Now, Catherine Blakespeare, the mayor, just released a press release in which she claimed that crime had actually fallen by 11% since 2016. So there's a lot of numbers being bounced around here, but the reason I bring this up is I want to know from both of you, like what is the accurate picture, and how does that inform your approach to office if elected on the issue of crime? Let's go with you, Michael.
So the actual picture is you don't go by charts, you don't go by reports, you go by what you see. And we can plainly see by the news reports, by sheriff's calls. If you can go to the sheriff's website and you can view all the calls that are going on. And I see burglary, I see assault, I see it happening all the time on their call service. And then you hear about the managers of Stater Brothers getting attacked. And then the next day, a lady at Gordy's Bakery gets attacked. And then you hear about people robbed on the corner of the street at gunpoint. You hear a guy reporting that he was stabbed by somebody with a pen coming off the Switchfoot concert. I mean, so this goes on and on and on. So we have charts that say crime is down. We have reports that say crime is down, which the other candidates seem to be following. But the issue is all it takes is for you to look and see what is happening, to know what is happening, and to know and to hear what the community is saying. I live in Leucadia, and I've talked to a lot of people in Leucadia, and I talked to shop owners who say the sheriff used to come and patrol the alley, down the alley, and now there's fights in the alley. There's people starting fires in the alley. I drive through Leucadia all the time. I see people running stop signs. I almost got hit head on because people are going the wrong way. There's not enough sheriffs in the city, and normally the rule is one sheriff for every 1,000 people. We have 62,000 people. That would be 62 sheriffs, but the issue is this sheriff's department also services Solana Beach and Del Mar. So you have to look at the number of that population, and you have to say triple or quadruple, because the issue is the sheriffs can say they have enough money, but if they're working on budgeting and staying at the baseline, then they have enough money. We need to up the money, we need to up the funding, and we need to tell them, I want you to hire more officers, I want you to have more presence, I want you to patrol those alleys, I want you to give out more violations for violating traffic laws, which can end into deadly situations on the road. And that is what I want to do as mayor. Yes.
Thank you. Jeff, first of all, do you agree with Michael that kind of the way to tackle this is by upping enforcement, investing further in the sheriff's department? Do you agree that that's the right approach? And second of all, like what do you believe are kind of sort of the underlying causes of crime in Encinitas? Like what's sort of driving, like in your view, since you've said crime is up, like what's sort of driving this resurgence? But the first part of the question just being, do you agree with this notion that like the solution has to involve putting more resources towards the sheriff's department, towards our law enforcement entities?
Yeah, I mean, to a certain degree I do, but then I go a little bit further because I've been head deep in this for 3 years. So the big change that has happened is that when Tony Kranz declared a shelter crisis in 2018, we didn't have a shelter crisis. What that declaration was for was so that some of the special interest political nonprofits can collect HEAP grants. And then part of that police powers, or a part of that shelter crisis, gave them police powers to go around the voice of the residents. So that's why a lot of things have been getting done without residential approval. You know, when you have a crisis, you would think something like Fort Myers and that hurricane that hit, that's like a real crisis. What happened here, in my opinion, was a fake manufactured crisis because our homeless numbers had gone down 2018, 2019, and 2020. We only had 47 unsheltered homeless right at the end of 2019. And that's between Encinitas, Solana Beach, Del Mar, Carmel Valley, and Rancho Santa Fe. So that's 10 per town. Let's say we got 20. That's basically homelessness is eradicated. So there's no reason that you should be declaring this shelter crisis. So part of that resolution or that crisis that Tony Cran signed also requires the relaxation of enforcement of laws. So the cops are, instead of enforcing laws in full effect, they are taking more of a hands-off approach. They're trying to not engage and trying to not arrest as many people, and it's just kind of a toned-down method that they use. And what that means ultimately for the residents is that for like maybe every one person that gets arrested, booked off to Vista, there's probably 9 other crimes easily that they're not being reported. So those numbers by Catherine Blakespeare, she's never been honest to me in her entire life, and I don't believe them. And if the laws were being fully enforced, you would see that 10 times what you're seeing right now. So I don't believe that. I believe what's happening is they're trying to let them go, because as they tell you, their hands are tied behind their backs. So right now they can't do their jobs.
Sure. So I want to talk about another issue, which is, well, you've touched on already, but the city's homelessness rate, supposedly up by 74% since 2020, according to the latest point in time count. That's a lot. And it seems as though Encinitas, from the last numbers that I checked, again, from the point in time count, has actually the highest homeless population by area density and by population. So in comparison to the surrounding cities.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk to both of you about, first of all, is it fair to say that the issue of crime and the issue of homelessness are connected? Because not everyone agrees with that assumption. Not everyone agrees with the presumption that our crime numbers are connected to homelessness. But secondly, I want to ask you about what you think is driving those numbers, the homelessness numbers specifically in Encinitas. So.
Well, I don't believe that 75% at all by any means, because at the end of the the end of 2019, when the 2020 point in time count numbers came out, we had 10 people apparently. I still don't trust those numbers. It was actually more, but they fudged with the numbers. I started monitoring people pouring into our town. So before 2020, they were already pouring in. A couple places started advertising our community to encourage people to come here. And so there was probably 50 or 70 parked at Moonlight Beach just alone, and all up and down 101. So the numbers, I believe, are being depressed a little bit. I mean, a lot of it. And then something that nobody wants to answer is that, guess what? During COVID, there was a state mandate shelter in place by Governor Newsom. And what that means is that you cannot move homeless across boundaries. So we're not allowed to push any of them out. We're not allowed to take any of them in. But guess what? Behind our backs, Tony Kranz and his crew brought in countless homeless and filled our hotels, multiple hotels, with homeless from other communities, high-risk people that, drug addicts and criminals, brought them here without any care for the residents, our children, our community, and then tried to ignore it. Well, guess what? I was in all those hotels documenting everything. And so I have evidence beyond. I got 3 years of evidence. I can prove everything they've done. So it's...
So I want to, if it's okay, I'm just going to ask Michael real quick. First of all, do you agree with the presumption that our crime numbers are closely tied to the homelessness issue in Encinitas? And second of all, do you agree with the comments that Jeff made? Jeff talked a bit about how sort of we have a manufactured crisis, how he thinks the homeless numbers are being drastically undercounted. Do you kind of agree with those sets of claims? And do you agree that these two issues are closely related?
I do agree that the homeless situation has caused an uptick in crime because out of all the calls I mentioned, examples I mentioned earlier, the majority of them were homeless people. And so Yes, I do believe that substance abuse and mental health plays into that. And I do believe that because of the homeless situation's uptick, it is also causing an uptick in crime. Now, I would say that right now the homeless situation has blown up everywhere. I just came from Escondido. There's people camping right at shopping centers right out in front of their lawn in a tent. And so the difference between Encinitas and Escondido is Escondido has interfaith, they have a shelter, they have resources to take care of people because they are a big city. We are not a big city. I would never support a shelter here. But what we can do, I feel the numbers are vastly underrated. I mean, by what you can tell in the city, like since I first moved here to now, I don't think those numbers are correct. But what I can say is we need to make ourselves able to handle the situation, because the reason it's so runaway here is because we don't have the resources to handle it. And so, and the other reason it's runaway here is because everybody wants to live by the coast. You know, I know of a homeless man who was offered a room in Vista, and he turned it down. He'd rather sleep on a bench by Moonlight Beach because he wants to be by the beach. So we need to focus on mental health, and we need to focus on substance abuse. And it doesn't mean the city does. People jump to the conclusion that we're saying, well, how are you going to take care of it in the city? We don't need. So we need a city office with mental health specialists that can go out, can talk to the homeless, can go out and assist with PERT. PERT only has 2 officers on duty at a time, and they get so many calls. And so what these people would do is, I'm not saying the city is going to take care of these people. They're going to go out to these people. If the sheriff has to arrest somebody, there's going to be resources. So they can take them to Kiva and Lemon Grove. They can take them to Tender Loving Mercy in Oceanside. They can take them to Serenity House in Escondido. We can contact those organizations and refer them if they need substance abuse or mental health. It doesn't mean we're going to treat them in the city for mental health and substance abuse. And so I feel the solution is to target the problem. The problem is not giving shelter. The problem is targeting mental health and targeting substance abuse. And if people want a room or a parking spot, they have to agree to get treatment if they are on drugs or mentally disabled.
Sure. So, Jeff, do you kind of agree with the last point that Michael just made, which is this notion that homelessness, because there's kind of 2 sort of camps when it comes to the homelessness issue. It's, people say it's a crisis of affordable housing, and then there are those who say that homelessness is tied to underlying conditions such as mental illness, substance abuse, etc. And there, of course, there's crossover. You know, both can be true, but do you kind of fall into either of those camps, or what do you think about what Michael said about this being mainly driven by our mental illness and substance abuse crisis?
I would say, yeah, I do agree to a certain degree. But, you know, I did spend time on the streets as a kid. And my mom, she spent time in one of the Norwalk regional hospitals. So I'm familiar with both aspects of homelessness as well as mental issues. And then the one good thing I'm experienced at is how to get out of it. So at this point, I'm not looking, we don't have the facilities in Encinitas, and I get disgusted that people are sleeping in the streets. I've been fighting so hard to get these guys off the streets and nobody's listening. And so my main concern at this point is the protection and safety of the residents. Of course, homelessness brings it in with a crime element. Anybody telling you that doesn't know anything that they're talking about. Go look at Skid Row. Go look at Venice. Of course, look at our crime rates after that parking lot came out. The first 6 months, violent crimes was up.
Talking about the safe parking lot.
Yeah, 58%. And Encinitas went from the slowest growing crime town to the fastest growing crime town. And now they're not really monitoring what's going on as far as, they're letting more people off than they are holding accountable. So my mind is I want to take care of my residents, and then I want to take care of the locals. I'm going to I'm not going to start getting involved in the mental aspect. That's a county issue. And I'm going to bring, if I can, I'm going to bring all the homeless to City Hall with me. I want to make them my problem. And then I'm going to work to find housing in places that have housing. You shouldn't be sleeping with rats and sleeping in the car. Dude, that's a nightmare. I did that all the time. You know, there's nothing proud about that, unless you got like a nice van and a bed. But you get a family of 4 sleeping in a little sedan, it's just not good. And so, you know, at this point, after 3 years, my community has taken a big hit. Residents are concerned. Our children aren't safe. The 101 is no longer safe. My daughter works on the 101, and things are being hid from us. They hid the sheriff's scanner from us, and I just don't have a lot of trust right now. And at this point in time, I want to take care of Encinitas. I want public safety as a top priority. I want law and order. I want the sheriffs to fully enforce all of our laws. I want to kind of yank this sanctuary city status thing that they got through that fake shelter crisis. And I'm going to make our town safe again. Now, I will commit to the locals. Personally, I'll work with them because I know a lot of them and I trust them and they're good people. And maybe I'll let them stay at the poinsettia room in City Hall with me. But I'm kind of just done. Encinitas is getting taken advantage of right now. And there's no end in sight. And that's why I'm going to step up.
Before we move on to the next topic, Michael, do you have any final thoughts? Or
I would just want to say that I'm not saying all homeless are mentally affected. The reason I still support a parking lot is because I've talked to a lot of people out. Like I've talked to people along the railroad tracks in their vans and stuff, and they have kids, and they're just down on their luck trying to transition, trying to get back on their feet from the rent issue. And so to have a parking lot safe for people like that are actually down on their luck or that need a temporary step to get back on their feet, that's what I envision it for. But I don't want people coming in there that are going to have a overdose on drugs and die in front of the kids or go onto a mental meltdown and start attacking people in the parking lot. And that's why I say if we do the shelter thing, not only because you're just enabling somebody to get worse by just giving them something and just making it easy for them to just continue what they're doing, but second, to make sure it's safe so that the areas that are shelters, that people are actually down on their luck, who might be senior citizens, who might have kids, are actually safe and not in danger from somebody on drugs or mentally ill.
Okay, thank you. I want to move to a slightly different topic. So as you both know, and here in Encinitas, we have Proposition A, which requires voter approval for certain zoning and density regulations to be changed. So I'm curious if both of you, and I'll start with you, Michael, and then I'll go to you, Jeff, if you personally support Proposition A in its current form, and kind of talk about that, or if not, how would you amend it?
I do support Prop A because I support the community as a whole having the voice. Mm-hmm. So even if there was a project that the community voted against that I wanted to do, I would go by the community's vote. Okay. And if there was a project I didn't want to do but the community voted for it, I would go by the community vote, because to me it matters to listen to the community. So, and it's not like we can't have issues where we say the majority of the community didn't like something, but we're going to go ahead and vote yes on it anyway. That's not going to happen. So, I support it very much because it at least gives some semblance of local control. There is not a lot right now, but at least that's one thing that we can actually have control locally, and then we can be holding the city council accountable and not being able to override. Because I think, as I don't know, as most people should know, you can't actually override Prop A.
Sure. Jeff, support Prop A, or would you amend it?
No, I actually 100% believe in Prop A, but I don't believe in our leadership. I don't like leadership that is sneaky and slimy and going around the backs of the residents trying to, make unilateral decisions without input. I believe that when I first showed up, I really wasn't involved too much in politics until 3 years ago. And then when I came in, it's just been a crash course. I've been getting, I've been a big target. So Prop A should be respected. What I'm concerned about is Catherine Blakespeare's activity of just kind of going around the residents and finding ways to, get these 15 projects slated for approval, putting in a homeless parking lot without any input from the residents, making one unilateral decision after the next, wanting to throw 5,000 to 8,000 units on El Camino Real. Are you crazy? So if I get elected, I'm going to go back in and audit and investigate. How did she get around Prop A? Did she use the shelter crisis and those police powers? I don't know. How is she getting all this stuff done without the residential input? As I've mentioned before, we're not North Korea. We're America still. We're going that direction toward North Korea, but there's a lot of questions and there's not a lot of exact answers because there's no transparency. So we're just kind of guessing at what's going on. And then if you question them, then they attack you. And so I think if I win, I'm going to go in there and just figure out how the heck everything happened. Because you can't just say, I'm going to do this without knowing what they do. I don't even know how many homeless we have. I don't know how they got any of this stuff done. So we have to go in there and figure out how they got it and got around Prop A so that we can bring Prop A back and as the center masterpiece of getting things done. They didn't do it in a proper way for the residents. They did it for themselves. They did it for political reasons. She wants to be a senator. You know what? Anything Catherine Blakespeare has done, I'm suspicious of. Anything Tony's done, and this whole entire city council, they need to go. They are just completely not with the community. They are not on our side. They have no compassion, for us, the residents, and they're just chugging along, looking for their political ladder climbing stuff, and that's just not the way that this thing should roll.
Sure. I want a quick response from Michael. Michael, do you agree with Jeff that the current city council needs to go? That the current government we have is just not responsive to residents and to the needs of the community, not just on the housing issue, but on all the issues that we're discussing?
I do agree that the current city council does not hear the voice of the residents. I mean, we had proof. I was at the last council meeting regarding the Verde crossing, and we had multiple residents show up, including residents from Cardiff that said they don't want to build. Tony Cran said they received a lot of messages regarding the project, and most of them were against it. And then they're like, we're still going to vote for it. And so the issue is complicated as far as the current city council, as far as another person stepping in as mayor, because they are going to be there. There's no way to kick them out until their term runs out and we can elect somebody else in that position. So you have to work with what you got. And as Jeff was mentioning, if they were trying to go, somebody was trying to go around Prop A to get projects done. If I'm sitting up in the council and I see that happen, if I'm up there, I'm a little bit of a different personality, because I'm not just going to sit there and be, okay, I vote yes or no. I'm going to be like, wait a minute, why, I want to find out how we're going around this, because I thought this is how it's going to be. And then if we can't find out right now, then we're not gonna vote right now. We're gonna look into it until I find out why, how do you get a project done if it fell under Prop A conditions, and if you can't explain to me now, if nobody in the city can explain to me now, we're cutting the vote off. We're gonna go back and look at it. Sure. I'm not gonna just vote blindly. So if something like Jeff is saying, like deception is going on, if I see it, anything like that, I'm going to just talk right there.
Sure. So do you, I want to address this question to Jeff, since we're on the topic of the city council. One of the big criticisms with the city council right now in Encinitas is that the council's votes tend to be unanimous, that there's kind of a cohesive direction to all of their decisions. The kind of the thought there, or the notion there, is that the other council members are sort of following in Blakespeare's footsteps when it comes to decision making. And the truth is that in the past few years, we've had a number of appointments on the city council. Yeah. Joy Lyons, for instance, was an appointment. And so my question for you is, because not everyone agrees that that's how it should be done when there's an opening. So my question for you, Jeff, is do you believe that if there's a vacancy on the city council in the future, do you believe that it should be filled by appointment or by a special election?
All right. Well, the ones that we tried to get, I was involved in the last election where I was trying to help some of our candidates get elected. And it was disappointing to lose all three people. I mean, it was devastating, but we had COVID and who knows what was going on. The appointments right now are ridiculous. These people are just basically Blakespeare yes people. That's not healthy for a community. That's why everything is a unilateral decision. Now, I'm not going to say initially that I won't appoint someone because I got a town to fix. So once this town is fixed and back in the control of residents, I'll be a little bit more open. But if push comes to shove, the community means more to me, and they have abused us by putting in bad players, and so I would bring this guy in 2 seconds. But then I would quit at a certain point. We have to catch up and figure out everything that's going on. And then once we get back to a normal community where the residents are in control, local control, then I'll say, okay, then I'll be a little bit more fair. But for right now, I want every one of these guys out. Get out of my town and quit ruining our town.
So, Michael, do you have any position on the appointment versus special election debate? Like, would you commit, for instance, to holding a special election, or are you sort of in between?
I'm actually against appointments, and I'm for only having an election because I feel very strongly on hearing the community's voice, and the community should choose who is elected. And that is why we have an imbalance, is because if you start appointing people, you're appointing people to one side, and I tend to come through the middle, and my philosophy is to negotiate both sides and to come to a compromise so that both sides are happy. And with appointments, you're running into the same situation of, like, if I'm appointing people that I'm going to want to see that are kind of like how I think. And I would rather the community choose somebody that's going to be appointed that's actually going to maybe have a face-off, maybe have different opinions than me, and then we can work it out. And versus like somebody that's just going to be like, okay, I agree, I'll vote yes. So yes, I believe only in a community voice, and I don't care if it's going to cost extra money. I do support special elections.
Okay.
Can I make a point on that?
Sure.
Okay, so as I'm saying this with the past, what I've seen, the way they make their appointments. And the city council will get their political special interest groups to show up in mass and start pushing their whoever they want, their candidates. Now, I would do a special election if real residents that are not financially making money off of the demise of our town, if we get real good residents in there, good people like Michael, good people like us, and we don't have a financial benefit of harming our town, I'll listen to them. But right now I'm used to hardball, so I'm not, until it tones down, I'm not going to say I'm going to commit to that until we clean out the city council. When people show up, for example, on the homeless parking lot, okay, they packed that with political special interest groups to give an impression that they are residents offsetting our voices. Well, no, they're just a bunch of props. All of them, every single one. I did research on backgrounds in all of them. So if those people are going to be coming into our city council, then I am going to appoint somebody. If regular residents come in that love Encinitas like we do and they're not trying to take advantage of it, then I will listen to them. So it depends who's showing up. But I plan on making different rules for people that are financially involved or have something financial to gain out of all this nonsense that they're creating to our community.
Sure. So, Jeff, I'm going to address this next question to you, and don't be offended, but the question needs to be asked, which is, there's a perception of you, and it's not a surprise.
Yes.
And that perception has to do with your sort of, shall we say, bellicose, controversial presence online.
Yes.
And some of the comments you've made over social media, over Facebook, Instagram, etc. And I guess just the best way to phrase this is, what do you sort of have to say to those who sort of find your style of politics troubling, and would you bring the same approach that you've carried on your campaign in terms of how you engage with residents to your time in office?
No, and I'd never planned on running for mayor. That was never my goal. When we were running the last election, I spoke with the candidates and I said, listen, I'm going to take all the bullets for everybody. So I'm going to put myself out there so that they lay off of you guys. And I fought back hard. I fought back ruthlessly, never planning on to run for mayor. And, you know, I grew up fighting my entire life, whether it's physical or, you know, verbal. This is all new warfare. We're talking highly educated people that are just railing you. And you know, you're not going to sit here and tell me something that they're trying to represent what I lived. So you guys don't know what you're talking about. Don't tell me about homeless. I grew up on the streets. My mom was in a loony bin. Excuse my language if anybody's offended. My mom, you know. So I now have been making a change to become more of a mayoral type person. Calm down, because before all this stuff, nobody knew me. I wasn't some crazy guy running around. I was just surfing, enjoying my family. I had a wonderful life, and I saw just some really evil things happening. And then I started getting attacked. I got attacked nonstop, just boom, 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 and they're just still coming. So, you know, their goal was to shut me down, and they've shut down maybe 100% of the other people before me. I was able to create a massive movement with Encinitas Watchdog because I care about this town. Nobody else did that. That's why all people are trying to pinch off the group that I created and pull them away from me. But it was successful in creating awareness. And so now I'm just shifting to a regular dad, you know. I think part of a perception that you can find out about a person is take a look at my kids, man. I have a 23-year-old who's working on her master's. I have a 21-year-old who's a senior at Boise State. I've got a good son was one of the top surfers in all of California for WSA. I have a wonderful wife. I've got no background checks. No criminal activity, but I've been getting lit up nonstop. But when you really look at the reality of what's going on, you know, I think my children, my family speaks a lot about me. I'm a family man, and I'm willing to fight and defend. In this town, you know, I always wanted to live here. I was in a youth home in Ramona in the 70s, and we came down here a few times. And, you know, I've been through some hard times, and I worked hard to get to Encinitas. And I love this place. And there's nowhere to move.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to protect, but I'm going to switch my positions.
Sure.
I know I can't be. I would be nice if I wasn't getting attacked every day, all day long. Then I wouldn't have to address it. I would be just a regular dude.
Sure.
But I believe that my lack of fear and I don't like being bullied because that's how I grew up. And this educational style bullyism is I'm just not going to put up with it, you know. So, but yes, I'm making adjustments. I understand. I've calmed down a lot when I decided to run for mayor. But there was never a single point that I ever really wanted to run. That was never in the books. I decided to run because I felt like I had the best qualifications. I have the background, the homeless background, the power to fight back. And I'm not going to let these guys destroy Encinitas. No way. I care about the residents, and bringing in homeless here who are harming residents is not acceptable.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, Michael, two questions. One is, you know, and you don't have to answer this, but do you have any opinions sort of about the way Jeff has run his campaign? But secondly, I want to talk about your approach and the way that you bring sort of that you engage with residents in the same way, and sort of how that would inform your approach to office in terms of your background, you know, the experiences that you've had.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have any opinion on Jeff's campaign because everybody has the right to run their campaign or to do their life as they like. I don't judge people, so like I like whatever he's doing. Whatever I'm doing. I've stated before, the most important thing is the community voice. So if I am the mayor, I want to hear from both sides. I mean, I'm talking left or right or whatever side's coming at me. I'm going to be like, okay, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. Some of them are going to be more vocal, some are not. But I'm like, I want to hear all your voices, and then I want to hear the broad community. And so what I want to do is I want to hear both sides first. I want to try to come to a compromise that suits both of them, like that will work for both. Like it's not going to work. It's not going to be perfect for both. There's going to have to be cuts for both to make it work for both, because you can't come to a compromise without that. But after that is done, if it's a small issue, we go to vote, we pass or we don't after it's been worked out. If it's a major issue, though, I want to have the ability for the residents to actually vote, to set up a poll on the city website that will be secure, that will be based on voter registration, so you can only get one vote. You can't come in with a bunch of emails and vote multiple times. And then at that point, if you're registering, if you're a senior and you don't have a cell phone where you can get the code to confirm, then it can be mailed to you, and you can go to the website and enter it in that way, so that everybody has a chance to register. And so then at that point, when that vote is turned in, it's going to weigh on the vote of the city council. So if the majority of the residents are opposing something, then I'm going to vote against it. And I'm going to, the way I see the mayor, as the mayor, I can't do whatever I want, but I see the mayor as guiding the city council. And so I would tell them, I'm voting no, and I hope you follow the community voice and vote no as well if they don't want to see this happen.
Sure.
As far as my experience goes, I have had vast experience negotiating with executives from corporations. I'm talking like Speedway, REI. I'm talking government agencies like the Department of Justice and the DFEH. And those have to do with civil rights issues and either contacting corporations to change their policies or update their policies, or helping people contact and deal with government agencies so that they can report violations. And so with that experience, I feel like my negotiating, because my success rate is high in my negotiating and making change. And so with the ability, with that skill that I learned, I feel like I can also talk to the citizens of the city and come to a compromise as well.
So yeah, I wanted to circle back to housing, because I think I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about housing a little more. I think that, well, I'll just tell you guys, one of the questions that we got, when I reached out to the community and asked them, we're going to be doing some mayoral discussions on the podcast, is people are concerned about affordability in Encinitas. People are concerned about, will their children be able to live here or even to rent here? The level of rent here, it's hard to find a place for less than $3,000. It's decent. So, the flip side of that coin, though, is local control, the importance of maintaining local control over housing, over density, zoning regulations. And so there's sort of a balance there that a lot of people feel needs to be struck. So for you, Jeff, how would you approach the issue of balancing affordability in Encinitas and the mandates that the state's putting on us at the state level in terms of these affordability mandates, and making Encinitas a place where we can live, where our children can live, and at the same time balance that with the residents' desire to preserve local control?
Well, the way I see it is that it seems to me that Catherine Blakespeare, in order for her quest to become a senator, has just coughed up and given Encinitas to developers and special interests in Sacramento, and she's just approving or pushing projects all over that mathematically make no sense as far as affordability. And I believe I was told not to say the word scam, but it is a scam. It's not really affordable housing. And then from what I'm understanding is that the developers are buying the units that are affordable and then renting them out. That's baloney. I'm going to stop that somehow. That's not the way it works. I'm all for affordable housing, and if we're going to talk about it, let's make sure it is affordable and it's real. And so I believe that the children who grew up here and workers need to have actual affordable places that they can buy. And in my mind, I look at this beautiful place right here. I'm like, wow, we could make some of these for these guys, and they can afford to live here. You don't have to live as a younger person as a king. Just be close to your family and be close to where you grew up. So I want to make sure that that those people can afford these housing. Now, these excessive numbers, we got to hit the brakes on this.
Coming from the state, you mean?
Yeah, well, not from the state so much, but from Blakespeare. She's not working in our favor. She's working in her own favor. All that city council is doing, I don't trust any of them. So when I get in there, I want to go and audit everything. I'm going to do investigations. I'm going to find out how we got to this point of nonsense. 5,000 to 8,000 units on El Camino Real of what? So, and then what about our infrastructure? I'm about public safety in every single aspect. So, we're going to put all these monstrous homes, but if I see any projects that take away from the safety of the community, I'm going to be pushing hard to make sure that that's straightened out. At the end of the day, the way I see Catherine Blakespeare, with her, we had Bruce Ehlers approve us at 50% affordable housing. And maybe we can go higher than that. We don't know. But she is on the opposite end trying to bring it down. So her plan is not conducive for Encinitas residents. It's conducive for developers, Sacramento, and all these other people that want to take advantage of our town. I'm fighting for Encinitas, man. I'm not going to let these guys destroy our town. Whether I win or not, I'm going to keep fighting. But at this point in time, the reality is we need to find out how we got to this point. Did she use that emergency shelter crisis as a way to get around the residents to get these 15 projects slated? Why is she talking about 5,000 to 8,000 projects on El Camino Real? Where's Prop A in all this? No one's talking about that. So we need to focus and get back to Prop A, find out what these guys are doing behind our backs, and then take action, appropriate action, because they're not working in the better interest of the community. And as a city council, you have a fiduciary obligation to take care of these residents. It's not about me. It's not about Blakespeare. It's not about Tony. It's about the community. And that's all that I care about. I care about the residents. They come first over everything, in my opinion. And we've suffered enough for the last 3 years. And I'm going to do everything I can to protect Encinitas. I'm getting sick of this stuff.
Thank you. Michael, a couple questions for you. One is, what would be your approach to making Encinitas a more affordable place to live? And then secondly, Jeff talked about it a bit, but would you sort of push back against these state mandates? Do you feel like they override citizens' local control? And what would sort of your balance there be?
Okay, I might kind of mix them because to tackle the affordable housing, I mean, right now there is no local control. We have a mandate. They're mandating a certain amount of affordable housing being added, but the issue that does not make sense to me, and they can be excuses can be made for it all day long, is apparently we're at 99% built up. So I said, and I also want to make this clear, I said in the debate, I want to up the amount of affordable housing required in all projects going forward to 30 to 50%. And I'm just saying, I don't want people to think I'm saying what somebody else did, because Cindy said that in your last show, and at the debate she said straight out 50, and I'm the one who said 30 to 50, and then so she's saying that after. I'm just saying that because I'm getting people saying I'm copying what she's saying. So I said that first at the debate, and I hold to it. And what I mean by 30 to 50% is what a lot of people don't know is affordable housing is not a flat rate. It's a low end to a high end depending upon the development. And so my low end would be 30, my high end would be 50 as a minimum, because we are at 99%. We have to hit the numbers that the state wants. And the only way to do that is to require every single development to come in and at least be 30 to 50% affordable versus market rate. And at the same sense, like Jeff had mentioned, around town, one of the main concerns of the people was that they bought their house in the early 2000s even for $300,000-$400,000. Their family grew up, and their kids can't move out without leaving town because they can't afford anywhere in the city to live. And so affordable housing is an important thing, and the that's why the percentages have to go up. I think like also what Jeff's mentioning, which is true, is like maybe zoning laws can be loosened so that you can have a tiny home installed on your property. I think that is a good idea that Jeff brought up. But we have to do something, and I think the most important thing out of all of this is to protect the affordable housing we have now. Because what happens is a developer comes in and they buy an apartment complex, which is affordable housing, and they renovate it, and after it's renovated, it's at market rate. And I don't see how it makes sense where we're trying to build affordable housing, but at the same time, a developer can come in and buy a property and turn it from affordable to non-affordable. And so what I would do is I would make a requirement. I know that along California state law, it's how it works. When somebody new buys a property, they can put the rent at whatever they want. But what I would do at a city level is I would say you can buy the property and you can put the rent whatever you want. But if you want a renovation permit, you're going to agree to grandfather in the people that are living there now. If somebody new comes in, you can charge whatever you want, but the current residents will stay at their level and raise at the level that they've been, and not just suddenly go from like $2,000 a month to $4,000 a month. It just isn't fair,
Sure.
and it just causes families to be displaced.
Sure. So I wanted to ask you along those lines, and this question is for you, Jeff, too. In the last podcast episode that we had, and in other comments that he's made, Councilmember Tony Kranz, who's also running for mayor, made the comment that that at a certain point, the percentage of affordable that you require has to still be feasible to where developers will actually be incentivized to build, to make a profit. And so, and sorry, Tony, if I'm butchering what you said, but the 30 to 50% numbers he seemed to imply were sort of magical thinking, I think was a comment that he made at the forum, and just sort of this notion that there's just no way that developers are going to build if you make the percentage too high. So I guess we'll start with you, Jeff. Like, what would you have to say about that comment, and then Michael?
I don't really. This city council cannot be trusted under any circumstances. I mean, they have been so dishonest for the last 3 years. They've been very aggressive, very attacky, and so that's how I started reacting. I'm like, you start punching me, I'm going to start swinging back metaphorically. And so I don't believe anything Tony, Kath, I don't believe anything any of them say, especially when you got them all saying that, oh, Jeff's going to, what'd they say? I'm attacking this person, I stalked this person. Tony's ignoring that he filled up the city council, the hotels with other towns homeless during a state-mandated shelter-in-place. All of our hotels, I mean, these guys don't tell the truth. Tony has the ability to discern between, using his heart, but he's picking the political avenue. So anything they say is not to be trusted. They've never told me the truth about really anything. And so, and then he won't admit that he filled the hotels. I'm like, dude, I have video footage of what you did. I've got interviews. You filled them during COVID illegally during a state-mandated shelter in place. You broke the law, man. And so I don't trust you. I don't trust Blake Spray. I don't trust Hansy. I don't trust any of them. They need to go. They've been around too long. They're destroying our town. It's time for the residents to come back. And then once we take control, then we'll find out what the real issues are. Tony's saying you can't do this and that. Tony, you're not telling the truth. We don't know if you're telling the truth. We have to find out if they're telling the truth. I have questions. I need to go to Sacramento. I'm going to go to Rob Bonta. Why are you ordering us to build this project over here when I've gone back and I've looked at the area that Olivenhain's concerned about a fire? Seriously, those guys, right now we don't have the infrastructure. If there's a fire in Olivenhain and it starts up by that, what is that ranch called? Fortuna Ranch or something like that? And then it's 2:48 in the afternoon when I drove out and it's packed. those guys are going to be in bad trouble. So,
But sorry to interject, but do you think that the numbers that Michael raised are feasible? This 30 to 50% idea for
oh yeah,
affordable?
I mean, I'll go 100%. I'll do everything 100% if I can. I've heard about that. 50%. I want the max affordable. I don't want anybody.
But will the developers still build if you raise the percentage?
Well, we're going to find out.
Okay.
We're going to work together. We're going to negotiate. We're going to talk. I'm not going to listen to what Tony says. Just because he said something doesn't mean it's true. It means it's probably not right. We are not. We have to negotiate and work for our community and protect it. This is a iconic beach town, and once you overfill and overdevelop this town, it's done. And for beach communities, we don't have 365 degrees to go around. Once you hit the ocean and you go west, that's a big giant wall. So everybody's going to get stuffed up in this one area. Beach access is going to be washed away or taken away. So, no, beach communities got to be treated differently. I'm going to fight for beach communities, and I'm going to just give it everything I have to make sure that we don't destroy this precious resource that so many people get to enjoy, and families come out, and it's saved my life, man. And so,
Sure.
you know, I'm just not happy with the way these guys don't care about the beach. And for me, it's everything. So I'm going to fight as hard as I can to make sure that this town is getting the best deals possible.
So Michael, back to you then. Tony suggested that the percentage of affordable housing that you raised for development would be unrealistic. What's your rejoinder to that?
I would say that's not entirely true, and I would use it almost as a case of, say you have a hot product that's selling, and and it's flying up the shelf, so you raise the price, and you double the price. It'll still be selling fast, and you add up the price again, and then maybe it'll start slowing down, but it'll still sell. Development in California, developers are swarming. They want to develop California. So you might have some big giant developer that won't go past 15 or 20%, and they're like, no, we're not going to do it because we're not going to make millions and billions of dollars off of it. So they'll step away, and right behind them, you're going to have more developers that don't care to make as much as the major ones. And like right now, the way I see it, the way California in a whole is being developed is like, if you put off a certain number of developers, you're going to have a bunch right behind them wanting to develop. And I feel like they would be willing to develop even up to 100%. But my percentages, I'm trying to be fair. Like, I try to balance everything, so I'm saying at least I want them to have the chance to, do half market and half affordable, and that way it puts a balance in. I'm not just totally, saying you're not ruining the developer to 100%. Yeah. You're still having a little bit of a bone thrown to you.
But it's sort of a supply and demand issue.
It is.
The demand's there.
Demand is like in California. Everybody knows development is like hot right now. So.
Okay. Any final thoughts, Jeff, before we move on? Or?
Yeah, I liked what he said. For me personally, if you're going to build these projects, 70% of $2 million is still way too much money for someone to afford. So I think that if we're talking about real affordable housing, well, let's make it affordable. Who thinks 1.3 million is affordable for kids and workers here? That's not affordable. So we have to find something. If that's what we're going to be using as the market of people that we're going to take care of, employees that work here, and then residents or children who grew up here, we got to make it affordable for them. So again, boom, here we go. This place is beautiful, man. This would be a perfect place, and it would be cheap and affordable, maybe. I don't know, but there's different ways to do things. Listening to these political crazy people, I don't believe anything they say. So they keep saying, oh, our arms are tied behind our back. We can't do this. We can't do that. Well, I don't trust you. I believe I can do way more than that, because you don't know how to. They're just they're pushing their political agenda. Me and this guy, we're fighting for the community. So we're going to fight against the people that there's not so much against the people that they're supporting, but we're going to fight for the residents, the community, and get real affordable housing. And yeah, some can be expensive, but for the kids and the people that work here, we got to that's the real affordable housing. And it doesn't do anything. Blakespeare, what their plans are, doesn't do anything for those guys. So I want to get those guys set up. And I want to, again, I might stop, if I have the ability, I'm going to stop all these projects, audit everything. I'm going to investigate how'd you get around Prop A, and why are you telling me we building these multi-million-dollar projects nobody can afford?
But Jeff, just to give you some pushback, like the projects, like the HEU projects, this is all coming from the state. Clark, Goodson, like these are all project, and we got sued over Goodson. The city of Encinitas got sued, was not sued, but the Attorney General actually threatened the city with legal action if they didn't approve the revised version of the Goodson project. So would you push back against the state, or how would you sort of reconcile your desire to protect the city from projects that you deem are impactful to infrastructure, but projects that the state is saying, like, you need to green light this?
They're not gonna come into our town and without looking at the infrastructure and just start telling us you're going to do this. The reason that they did that is because Blakespeare wants it. She wants whatever they want. So she's not working for us. She's working against us. So we don't know what it's like to have a council that actually works for you. So it's a little bit of a gray area, but we get rid of all of them, things might change. We care. They're not destroying a lot of other local community towns, beach towns. So right now, our entire city council is anti-Encinitas. They're pro climbing the political ladder. I think get those politics out of here. I'm just done with those guys, and I'm going to fight, for the community. I don't care about politics, and I'm not scared to go to Sacramento. I'm not scared to go to Rob Bonta. You're going to explain to me in logical, common sense terms how we're going to build these projects with no infrastructure. So I'm going to fight my heart out to make sure that everything that we get results in the best product for Encinitas residents. I don't want the best products for Blakespeare and everybody else. So I care only about Encinitas.
Quick final thought from you, Michael. Would you sort of push back against the state as well on housing?
So what I would tell the state is, we are at 99. We're supposedly at 99% built up. Okay, and then I would tell them, we approved the Goodson project because they threatened to sue, but then months later they said that they're going to sue people if they don't, sue cities if they don't make sure that the projects are fire safe. So I would tell them what you are doing is you are pushing this city to make decisions that are dangerous for the public, and I will let the public know that it is the state causing these issues, and I will explain to them, like, we're looking like what I'm saying right now is if the state is pushing me to approve projects that's going to be unsafe before safety studies have been done, and then right behind that follow up and say, but we're also going to fine you if you aren't making a safe project. So I'm telling them, I don't care what you're saying. If you want to threaten me, that's fine, but we're going to make sure all the studies are done and everything is clear before any projects go in. And that's how that's how I negotiate. I'm not gonna fully shut them down, but I'm gonna be like, look, this is what you're doing, and it as far as you can, plainly you can see it's ridiculous. So at least let us finish what we need to do before you step in and rush us to it, because what you are doing, and just what I would put out in the public, is you are creating a public hazard. And I don't think you want to have that public perception. That's how I would talk to the state. So,
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I want to move to another topic, and that is Streetscape. So we all know what Streetscape is. It's happening. It's in motion. At the same time, looking back from where we're at now, my first question to you, Jeff, would be, do you believe that Streetscape was a prudent investment? And my second question to you would be, given that it's already in motion, how would you as mayor handle this project moving forward? Because you have people who, I wrote an article about this in the Coast News a few months ago, you have people, even safety experts, who are concerned about the project's impact on, for instance, emergency vehicle response times, on the fact that at certain points you're narrowing the 101, which might restrict emergency vehicle access, and you have a lot of residents who have spoken to me personally about their concerns over this. So, but that aside, just how would you, now that the project's in motion, sort of handle the project? And then back to my first question, was this a good investment to begin with?
From what I'm gathering from the residents, and like him, for me, it's like a simple democracy. My number one concern is public safety in all aspects. As he was mentioning, if you're going to build these big projects, you better not be endangering the residents. So I've my group has been monitoring, Encinitas Watchdog has been monitoring what's going on that streetscape, and it's a poorly designed product. And I've been so busy, but I've been riding my bikes around and I'm getting confused, like, okay, so I'm coming to one of the roundabouts and then it wants to push me into the traffic, and the traffic doesn't want me to go in on my bike. So I'm just going up on the sidewalk. And then, as we come up to the a stop sign, they have it bend inside. And so sometimes I'm not completely paying attention. I'm clunking over the curb. This is ridiculous. Beach access is important for everybody. And what this does is it cuts away the beach access, and it discourages people from coming to one of the most peaceful places on the planet. So I'm 100% against preventing people from accessing the beach. If I have my choice, I'm going to speak with the residents all up along there. What do you guys want? I'm in favor of bike lanes, but like good bike lanes, not these ones that you're merging in with cars with kids. I want to make it safe. So for me, I believe it should be back to 4 lanes. I don't know why they're putting up lights on top of it. I personally believe they're trying to put Leucadia out of business. And they put that big fence by the by the railroad tracks, so you cannot access the beach. No, there's no condition that that's safe or acceptable. So, and then when Catherine Blakespeare popped in her own little tunnel just the other day off Verde and overlooked all those residents, I'm like, you know what? You are exactly what's wrong with this town. You just think you're an elitist. These people need crossing, and so I want whatever the residents want. And right now that streetscape is a disaster. Okay. That thing's it's a disaster. So we're going to have to address that and work on making that thing proper.
Okay, Michael.
And if I got to break that thing up, I'll break it up. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the main things of my campaign is needs before aesthetics, and to me, Streetscape is I think it's up to $70 million. Is a $70 million aesthetic project. There's a lot of needs that need to be taken care of before we work on Streetscape. I did notice that they're starting to actually pave the roads. I don't know if it's because it's been brought up or if it was in the planning stages, but there's rough roads everywhere. Crossings in Leucadia, residents have been asking for decades for crossings in Leucadia. And so the city not only did not fight a fence in Leucadia, so residents couldn't cross the tracks safely like they've done for forever, because they know how to look both ways and they're not committing suicide. But instead of fighting the fence, the city not only welcomes it with open arms, but actually pays for the fence. I don't know if a lot of people know that the city actually paid. NCTD didn't pay for the fence, the city paid for it. And so they wasted money on the fence. And so looking at the end of Vulcan, we have one crossing at Leucadia Boulevard. The other end at La Costa is a death trap. If you are trying to walk up to that corner, there's no sidewalk. You're stuck between two bluffs in the road walking, and it's a curve. So there's going to be more fatalities than there is going to be people committing suicide on the tracks if people start crossing at that point. And so I say, instead of doing Streetscape, they should have fixed the roads. They could have put in like 4 to 5 crossings in Leucadia for the amount of money they used on Streetscape, and they still would have had some left over. So I say, instead of doing Streetscape, they could have put the crossings in, could have put the curves at La Costa. They could have put extended the trails in Olivenheim, which a lot of the residents, when I talk to, they want to see safer walking trails off the road, because there is no curve there either. It's like if you walk some places you're right on the road. And backed off of pushing bike lanes, and they're saying it's easier to walk. I walk. I don't see how it's any different than it was as far as walking. I'm not seeing a difference. Like some candidates say. I just don't see it. I don't see why it's easier to walk. I see they're giving a designated bike lane. I'm not a fan of sharrows. I think they're dangerous, but I think instead of a designated bike lane to interfere with traffic control, they could have gone with a nice wide traditional bike lane for the bikes. We don't need to cater to the spandex sport bikers that want to ride 3 to 4 out. They can ride single file to 2. And the issue with Streetscape is an aesthetic issue, and it's also an agenda to push alternative modes of transportation. And the issue is, yes, some people are going to ride their bikes and electric bikes, but the people that are using their automobiles far outnumber the people that are using alternative modes of transportation. And this includes empty trains and empty buses. And so the way I see it, you can't blow that much money, millions of dollars, on infrastructure that doesn't appeal to what the current community goes by. If maybe in the future with education, if more people start switching to bikes instead of cars and switching to different modes of transportation instead of cars, then you can start investing the money into projects like this. But to do it now is just a waste of money. It's a beautification project and an agenda project to promote alternative modes of transportation.
Sure, and if I can just follow up on that, then I mean, the council's pushed this. It's already in motion. I believe we're on phase 2. I'll have to double check that, and there's potential phase 3. So now that the project's in motion, it seems like it's happening, whether we like it or not. Sort of, how would you handle that as mayor?
So to bring a reality check, I can say, oh, I'm gonna cancel it and change. No, so to bring a reality check, what's already been done has costed money. I can't spend more money to undo it, but what I can do is I can go in and I can modify the existing project going forward. So on the Lucchese end, what I would do is, the first thing I would do is I would make at least one, if not 2, of the crossings be a part of Streetscape, be a requirement, because as the mayor stated in the State of the City, the crossing over by the farmers market was essential for Streetscape because it connected the community. So what she's basically saying is that part of the community matters, but the Lucchese doesn't, because it's not essential there to connect the communities. So I would say that because crossings are essential to the community, and the previous mayor has stated that it is essential, that those crossings were overlooked by mistake, and they were actually supposed to be should have been in Streetscape, and so I'm adding them as a requirement, and they will be built with the funding from Streetscape. And not only that, but they will be put in before Streetscape is completed, so that when it is completed, people can walk and connect to Streetscape. I would make modifications by removing the stoplight. I don't know why a stoplight was put in. Even if it's going to cost money to remove it, it doesn't make sense there. I would also make modifications to cut the roundabouts, because I am not a fan of roundabouts. I think they were making a big deal about the La Costa Vulcan stop signs, and they wanted to put a roundabout in there. The stop signs are fine. It doesn't hinder traffic. Roundabouts, a lot of people don't know how to maneuver them, and I've almost been hit a few times because I'm coming in, and another car, I'm coming in, I'm going around, and another car just shoots out from the road and almost hits me because they don't know they don't realize you're supposed to halt when somebody's already in the roundabout. And so it's confusing to some people that don't know how to do it, and I'm a fan of going back to traditional stop signs if we need them. And mostly I would, in that section of the corridor, I would cut out the designated bike lane and make it a wider side of the road bike lane. I would actually eliminate the sharrows because I feel they are dangerous. That's why one woman in that area was killed because a car rear-ended her because she was in a sharrow, and I don't think bikes belong on the road at all. And so I could not roll it back, but I could make modifications and changes on that end.
Sure. All right. Well, we're running on time, so Jeff, final thoughts from anything we talked about today, and you can circle back as far as you want. But
Well,
closing
okay,
remarks.
so for me, it's been a long 3 years. And I would say within 2 days that I realized that we were not being told the truth. I don't have a lot of respect for people that are dishonest, which is our entire city council. They lie, they don't tell the truth, they ignore the residents, they do whatever they want, unilateral decisions, Kim Jong Blakespeare, and Kim Jong Tony. This is America, man. And you guys have a fiduciary obligation to the residents, not to yourselves. And these guys are all screwed up thinking, no. You're going to do what the residents want. You're going to speak with the residents. You're going to treat the residents with respect, and you're going to find out what their input is. And I've had 3 years of just getting attacked, like by Blakespeare, our mayor. How the heck does the mayor attack somebody she doesn't even know? I'm getting attacked by Kelly Hansey. You're not supposed to be attacking people, Kelly. Joe Mosca telling the sheriffs that I have mental issues and I shouldn't be endorsed by the San Diego Gun Association. I said, hey, I've had guns longer than you've been alive. These little political games, they got to go. I'm sick of it. Who else? Joy's pretty nice, but she's still part of that group. That whole group is a cancer to this community. They don't care. I care, man. I've thought about it. I'm just going to be straight. I thought about moving, and there's no better surf community in all of mainland America than Encinitas. We've got world-class waves all around us. So I've decided I'm not moving. I'm fighting. And I'm going to fight for the right reasons. I'm going to fight for the residents. I'm going to fight for the safety of our children. I'm going to fight to make sure that our town is protected. And I don't care about all the rest. I'm not the homeless thing. That's like in the back burner. They already failed. The contracts for those guys who brought in the homeless, who lied to us, it all says that it's not supposed to have any adverse impacts. Well, guess what? Our crime is out of control. They took away the sheriff's scanner. They're hiding everything from us. And they're not trustworthy. It's time for them to go. And if you want to throw some other people in there, Cindy and Tony, they're the same thing. I was like shocked because I've known Cindy forever. And then whoosh, she flipped on a button just into a Blakespeare. And I'm sick of these people trying to intimidate residents, intimidate candidates, intimidate voters. And my heart is into Encinitas more than you can imagine. Just think, 3 years, I have not stopped. I have fought nonstop. I dropped everything for this community. I love Encinitas, and there's no way I'm going to let these guys destroy the community. The residents are going to call the shots. I'll negotiate with Sacramento. I'd love to work with you. But, at the end of the day, I don't care about their politics. You can take the politics and get that crap out of here, because that's what I don't want politics. This
Sure.
town for 30 years was a beach town, an iconic town, and all of a sudden they bring in all these like political activists, and they're starting to stir everything up. Get that out of here, man. There's nothing. Encinitas is not a racist community. We're not anti anything, but they're making it like that because they want to do the political nonsense. That's done. That's not happening around me, man. No way. So I'll take them on head on, and I'm going to fight hard for my community, and I'm not going to stop. It's just, it's what they're doing is not acceptable.
Sure. Michael, closing thoughts?
So what I would say is, like I said, we need to hear the community voice. I've had enough attempts at communicating with the current council and received no response whatsoever. And so I need to reach out. I want to hear the community voice and focus on the major issues, what's important right now, and that's cutting down on exorbitant spending responsibly, and part of that is clamping down on crime, and I feel that's putting money into the sheriff's department is responsible funding. Like I said, I don't care if they say they have enough. I want to go past the minimum budget, what they're running on, and up presence. And like I said, tackling the homeless situation. enforcing new rules on affordable housing so that we don't get the reason we are at the place we are now with the state is because we didn't require enough affordable housing in the past, and so it's time to get on the same page and start enforcing what we need to do, and that's raising the percentage on affordable housing. But mostly, what I say is on November 8th, the residents are going to go out and vote, and you have to make the choice. Do you want to vote for the staying the course of what we're doing now, because some of the candidates are in the course or seem to agree with the current course we're on now, or do you want to go in a different direction? Do you think there needs to be change? And so that's what I offer out to all the residents is they make their decision on November 8th. I stand by whatever decision is made. Yeah, I just say my saying is respect all, trust few, and do no harm to anybody. So,
All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so
Touch
much.
on just one more point. That would be cool.
Yeah.
So going back to the last few years and all these battles that I've been in, before the parking lot was popped in what was that, November 20th, 2019. Nobody knew me. I was just a surfer. I was a staple. You know, I was out having a good time with my family and just enjoying the beach. And then, so I came in as just a regular person, believing that I had a right to express my concerns. I know about homelessness. I'm an expert on it. There's no PhD, there's no nonprofit that's going to tell me about homelessness because I lived it, I beat it, I worked my way through college, and I bought a home by 27. So I understand. I have a blueprint. They were never had any intentions of helping the homeless. They had intentions of growing the homeless, and the proof is in the pudding. Those homeless didn't walk into all of our hotels on their own during COVID. They were invited here. So now that I'm progressing and evolving a lot more, and I understand that I have to have a more mayoral position, and that's easy. You know, it's just be myself, just happy-go-lucky. And so people have some concerns. Jeff is crazy. Jeff is this. Jeff is that. Hey, you might be a little bit, but guess what? I put all you guys on the heels. I got you guys all in check, and none of y'all ever got me cornered on anything. They accused me of all this stuff, so I'm getting blasted. You know, like so. That being said, I'm past it. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to lead, and I'm ready to protect this community. And I'm not going to allow one community to get all the perks. We got lots of communities that need things done, and I'm scared for Leeuwenhoek with the fires. I'm not happy about Leucadia. You know, the people crossing. That's not cool. And so the residents have not had an opportunity to have what they want addressed, and that's who I'm going to represent. Residents. I don't care about politics. I care about my community. I want it safe, and I'm going to give it everything that I have to make sure my community is satisfied and their needs are met.
Thank you, Jeff. Thanks to both of you for coming on today.
Thank you.
Really appreciate your time, Michael, Jeff. It's great having you both on. And I'd like to again thank our sponsors, Max Lux Media. Thanks again, guys, as always. Barn Time as well for hosting us here. And yeah, that's all we have for today. Stay classy, San Diego.